time to get rolling. We are going to be a little short the rest of the quarter. Brad and Jessica's going to be over there with him, doing the new class with the young converts over there, and then I think Roger's going to be there just to kind of be of assistance and learn a little more. I think he's going to potentially do a little extra study with them after the quarter is over, so he's there to kind of see how that goes and do that. So we're going to need everybody to step up really good. Not that y'all haven't before, but we'll need some good participation this morning. My voice is a little gone. I've been real, I don't know if it's allergies or what, been a little junky last few days, so struggling a little bit with some congestion. So before we begin, Sam, you carry Lisa in prayer, please?
Father God, we're thankful, Lord, for the day, for this opportunity to be here this first day of the week, studying and worship, and to praise you. Thankful for the night's rest and for all that has made points to be here today. You need to be with us and help us as we go through this workbook and use your Bible as a standard with our lives. Father, we pray that you will help us to apply those things that we discussed today and past lessons to be better for you, be more encouraging and uplifting for each other, to strengthen the body. Pray for the many sick that continue to be on this number and with our families, God. We're so thankful for the many that have been restored. Good to see Amanda with us today, God. We're thankful for that and give you glory. Have mercy on us. Continue to direct us. Continue to be Ron and all the teachers as they lead the class. Bless with strength and wisdom. And we pray, Father, that all we do to bring glory to you. You have mercy on us and continue to direct us this day and throughout our lives to bring glory to you, so we go to Jesus. And all of them we pray.
Amen. Hey, in your books, we're on page 35. We're in lesson 9, do not speak against one another. Before we moved on to that, let's see if anybody else had anything on being hospitable to one another that we didn't get to finish the entire lesson last time, but we got through all the points I wanted to get through. So anybody else have anything on being hospitable before we move on to not speaking against one another? Okay. So, do not speak evil of one another, brethren. He who speaks evil of his brother speaks evil of the law and judges the law. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. It's in James chapter 4, verse 11. The point of this lesson, I think when we speak evil of one another, we automatically go to just hurtful words. There's a lot of different kinds of ways we can speak of one another or to one another that is more than just kind of in a slanderous matter. We're going to definitely discuss things like slander and things like that, but there's many things that can come out of our mouths that defame the Bible, defame others, defame what God stands for. Seems like today in this world there's a lot more negative that shoots out of the mouth than good, and so many words can be very, very harmful. As good as they can be uplifting, that they can tear down just as easily, if not more, and can spread quickly. So our mouths are very, very important for so many things. And this lesson, unlike our other lessons where we're showing things we need to do better, this lesson is more of showing things we need to watch out for with our mouths. So whenever the biggest first thing we always need to think is when we're speaking to really stop and ponder what's about to exit. The biggest thing that the writer conveys here in the first kind of summary chapters before we get into this is if we don't use our brains before we speak, then all these points are going to be kind of irrelevant, because if everything is reactionary, it's never going to be something good that comes out of the mouth. If we're trying to help others grow, into what God wants us to be, into the image of Christ, we cannot use our mouths to cause that person to be belittled, cause tremendous consequences. That when we say things or say things to one person, sometimes that can just affect the person that's close to that person, affect the church. We've seen it here. We've seen it. We've seen it in the world. We've seen it among other churches. We've seen it, among brethren. How words can really, really be hurtful and really cause things to go south quickly. The way he's, I like the way that I have kind of my book structured a little bit more to yours. We're gonna use both. We're gonna go down the list of definitions here, but we're gonna kind of go beyond. And I had meant to send an email asking y'all to do this, but I forgot. In regards to defining these words when we go through these, if y'all had some scriptures, great. But we're going to go through some scriptures and kind of dive into each of these words a little bit before we get into page 36 of your books, where we actually go into deep dive in some of these verses, because we really need to understand some of these words before we can really dive in to see the damage they can do. And there's two that aren't put in these definitions that we're going to talk about a little bit. Not so much the mouth, but we're also going to talk about profanity. Wasn't really put in here. It does go with these words, but I am going to throw in profanity here. That's something that's talked about. I think the reason it's not mentioned probably as much is because it's not really something that always is directly hurting someone, but profanity can do just as much damage, but using unwholesome words. And then we're going to talk about angry words too, which also go hand in hand with some of these. The first one, does anybody have anything before we get into some of these definitions real quick? There's going to be 6 things. There are six main things that come out of the mouth: murmuring, lying, slander, gossip, backbiting, whisperings. We're going to talk about some of this because some of them I really had trouble with. So I'm kind of curious to what you say, because a couple of these are, if you look at the definitions, they're almost identical. I mean, but there is like usually one word that kind of separates it. That in the definition. I don't mean just the Merriam-Webster definition. You look at those; a couple of them are literally identical. But if you look at spiritually what we're talking about here, there's a little bit of a difference between some of these, and we're going to talk about each of them and dive into that a little bit. Okay, so first one there is murmuring. Murmuring. What's another word for murmuring? Starts with a G. Grumbling. Okay, so what's murmuring or grumbling? Okay. Very good. Yeah, complaining. Anybody else?
For sure, but it's more of a lower key type thing. It's not very audible and outlandish, but definitely going to affect people around you.
Okay. If we go over to 1 Corinthians, let's see, chapter 10, verses 5 through 10. If somebody could read that, please.
Nevertheless, with most of them God was not pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now these things took place as examples for us, and we might not desire evil as they did. Do not be idolaters, as some of them were, as it is written, people sat down to eat and drink, and rose up before them. You must not indulge in sexual immorality, as some of them did. 23,000 fell in a single day. You must not put Christ to the test, as some of them did, and were destroyed by serpents, nor grumble, as some of them did, and were destroyed by the destroyer.
Somebody turn over to Exodus chapter 16, verse 7 and 8, please. verse 7 and 8, Exodus 16.
In the morning then you shall see the glory of the Lord, for he that, so that he hears your murmurings against the Lord and what ye are, that ye murmur against us. And Moses said, This shall be, and the Lord shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and the morning bread to the full, for the Lord hears your murmurings, which ye murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against you.
Okay, what was something the Israelites were really good at? Okay, which led to grumbling and complaining. How much did they have to grumble and complain about? Okay. You notice, goes along with what Sam said, their grumbling and complaining, it's not like they were just all just screaming and cursing God. It wasn't like a big out loud thing. They were kind of hitting on Moses over there and saying, hey, struggling a little bit over here. I kind of want to go back to Egypt where we had food and we were beat half to death and all those good things where that they were one and more than likely started with some in a group, and as you can see, the more and more just picked up. And just like most things that are negative things that come out of the mouth, led to a fire of grumbling that was among the people, which led to, once again, God being very dissatisfied. God normally answering their cry, but God being very dissatisfied with their attitude and how they are. That's not much different. We are not much different from the Israelites when we grumble like this. What are some things that we grumble about today? We're not grumbling about the same things the Israelites grumbled about. What are things we grumble about today?
Too hot and too cold. Too loud.
Okay, very good. Politics, yep. Either. If y'all didn't get to spiritual, I was going to ask spiritually. What else we grumble about?
Things that, personally, it's hard for me not to grumble about things that I think need to be changed or discontinued to be the same. Like, I can't believe, I've asked this so many times for this to be done and it's not done. Or, I can't believe we're still doing this after, we talked about some time, or whatever. There's things that I perceive need to be fixed or changed and it continues in the same pattern, whether spiritually or physically or whatever.
Very good. When are y'all going to change the communion? I mean, it just tastes terrible. I mean, it's just throwing off my whole service. I mean, how bad that stuff is. I mean, not too much dissimilar to not have to the Israelites there, and some petty things that we complain about. I've heard complaints before in church before, simple things, not anything that spread that caused anything problem, but over class structure, over age discrepancies in class, over topics that are discussed, sometimes inter-class discussions. I sat in the class. I've been a part class with Dad before one time where, he taught some. I want to say it was in doing the parables or Matthew or a couple of parables, and a couple of those parables, they're a little hard to agree and understand. There's one mention on with Lazarus and the chasm and some of the things, whether that's real or not. You remember, and some of that leads to dispute, grumbling on difference of opinion, and just arguing things like that. Those things. The reason I'm remembering that right now, and the reason I'm remembering that because those negative things come out, they stick out in your head. I don't remember them being good things. That just anytime I mentioned y'all before that I work with a couple people that are like that, and I remember that stuff more than I do some of the good things that come my way at work sometimes, because those negative things, they kind of weigh you down a little bit when you keep hearing them over and over and over again. the simplest complaining can really spread and cause others to either just not want to be around you or to start doing the same thing, just like the Israelites. And that just leads to just a church that's kind of satisfied with each other. That's in no way is being a complainer part of the love God expects us to have. It's no way part of the attitude that God expects us to have. Just like He didn't expect that out of the Israelites, He does not expect that from us as Christians. Let's turn over really quickly to Jude 1, verses 14 through 16. Whoever's got that, read that.
Now Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied about these men also, saying, behold, the Lord comes with 10,000 of his saints to execute judgment on all, to convict all who are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds which they have committed in an ungodly way, and of all the harsh things which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. These are grumblers, complainers, walking according to their own lust, and their mouth great swelling words, flattering people to gain advantage.
Okay, so don't say God just said don't be grumblers and didn't tell us who to look for. Okay? God just gave you the roadmap right here on what to look for and what a grumbler looks like to Him. You tell me if you see any more points from this than what I've seen here, what I've found. Seems like grumblers, they follow after their own desire. So He said that in verse 16. They follow after their own lust. They're not concerned with serving, pleasing God. They're concerned about something they want to get out of it. Whether it's I got to get this complaint off my chest. Doesn't matter what it causes, what it hurts. I got to get it off. They're only concerned with satisfying themselves. It also says that they speak arrogantly. They boast about themselves. Sometimes it's like hearing themselves speak when they're complaining about that. Whatever you want to call it. The writer here says their mouth uses great swelling words. Have you ever heard anybody who complained about themselves? That's just not the case, right? So that the complainers think that what? Who's right? They're always right. Everyone else is wrong. So they it says they flatter to gain a personal advantage. Flattery is not something that God has ever said it is something good to have as a characteristic of a Christian. Being a smooth talker, don't think grumbling complaining is always easy to see. Sometimes the smooth talkers are there to get you to gain them on their side, to get them to be part of their murmuring or grumbling. Then it says God includes these with the ungodly. So I mean, just flat out, the grumblers are ungodly. Does that how does that stand out to you? Whenever God says grumblers are labeled with the ungodly, they're labeled with the murderers, liars, and we're going to get to those in a second. But the consequences of that small complaint, and we don't think about complaining so much as being this bad sin or whatever. But when God says we're doing this, when we're wearing this characteristic on our shoulder, especially spiritually, it's gone beyond just how you affect others. It's gone how you affect your condition, your spiritual condition. God uses, I think I counted 4 times he used the word ungodly before he got to grumbling. How he thinks of this, and then it says that the final result, is they'll be lost. Of course, if this murmuring attitude is not changed, God's going to punish the grumblers just like He punishes the murderers, liars, and everyone else who's doing. He put those in the same sentence. So that words that go along with that: griping, whining, complaining, pouting, criticizing, to me are all synonyms of murmuring and grumbling. So it really don't matter what you call it. God hates it.
Part of the definition, when I looked it up, talked about heart murmur, like a physical, in the physical body. And so if you have a heart murmur in your physical body, it indicates something's wrong with your heart. And if you don't take care of it, it leads to further problems. And so I thought that was kind of profound that the medical community uses that word to indicate physical heart problem that can grow worse over time if you don't take care of it. And just the spiritual implications of what that means for our spiritual heart. And that if we find ourselves doing these, behaving this way, and it can even be, I think, the way of thinking. Um, we think that way, we're eventually going to speak that way, indicates a heart problem. If we don't take care of it, it's going to have more damaging implications, such as, we're going to be included as ungodly ourselves. We're going to pull more people into our negativity. And so I just thought that was, I'm glad I saw that parallel in the definition.
Very good. Is this an easy thing to fall into? Very good. Very good.
It wouldn't necessarily always have to be your words either. It could be our role.
That's all it needs. Uh-huh. That's all you need. That's all you need. Yep, that's all you need. Yep. You know what I hear when I walk in work sometimes? Putin, Russia, it's awful. We're going to get bombed in a few weeks. Do you know that? I was like, no, I didn't. I don't pay attention to news that much anyway, especially that stuff. Because, I mean, what does the news really cause? Do you ever see positive stuff on the news? I'm going to tell you something. If you dig in the news, 99% is negative. I mean, it's just negative. I'm not saying we shouldn't watch things like that at times to be informed about, things. I know a lot of people that watch the news that don't complain or grumble. It's just what you see. Whether, like I said, whether it's at work or somewhere else, just the simplest things. You could find yourself doing those things. You'd easily get caught up in that. Just so many bad things going on in the world. It seems like you could easily see where Christians could fall into it. I'm not trying to pick on them whatsoever with all that going on. This is no means to pick on them, but I could have easily given an excuse for some people recently, like the McDonald's and the Bridgmans and everything, just to be complaining about a lot of stuff. And I never got that one time from them. In fact, anytime I talked to them, I was more encouraged. Like, that's how I want to handle situations like they've been dealing with. It's really this stuff's going to come to everybody. You're going to have death in families. You're going to have bad news going around the world. You're going to have scary things you hear, and it's really the attitude that we have as Christians. It's really how we think and where we put our focus. If our focus is on God, if it's focused on pleasing God, we are not going to let the world affect us and the things around us affect us so much where it's going to cause us to be complaining and grumbling all the time. Very, very good. Anybody else on grumbling and murmuring?
To Sam's point, thinking about in Jude where it says people, the grumblers flatter others for their own gain. If we are asked to do something in the church or we need to help somebody and we say in a work group, for example, we're like, sure, I can do that. But then when it comes time to do the thing, or I can't believe I told them not to do this, or I can't believe I have to do this for this person, or I don't have time to do this thing. It doesn't have to be words, but just what's our mindset when we agree to serve put on a good, give a good impression to others, and I really don't want to do it, or am I really happy to serve?
Very good.
There are certainly some complaints in the Bible that we're doing, and think about Acts 6, there's a complaint about how the Lord is doing.
Right.
And the way that it's how you address those disagreements or those complaints. In Matthew 18, I'm going to talk to you if I got an issue with you, and we're going to sit down with brothers and hash it out, or I'm going to talk to her and him about it. That the murmuring is the quiet, that instead of directly addressing the issue in a positive way to somebody else, being peacemaker about it, and it's hard to do. It's hard to have the guts to go do it. It's much easier to talk to somebody else or be a keyboard warrior about it instead of just going to address someone and having a lot of conversation about it.
Very good. Anything else about murmuring? Okay, big problem. I don't think there's any coincidence he mentioned this first. I think this is, definitely the easiest. The reason I think that this one is actually the one we really have to watch out for. We're going to get into lying and all those things. I really don't think like the lying and slander and backbiting, like those are things that every Christian is just going to like just creep into all the time, especially in this congregation or anything like that. To me, those are not bigger sins. There's no rating of sins, but to me, those are pretty deep issues that we're going to get into here in a second of some pretty serious things that you got going on. If you have a recurrence problem, of lying or saying really, really awful things to people and things like that, those are pretty deep deals. This one, to me is the one that the devil uses as the big tricker here, because this one can easily creep in. Sam and Tara both discussed internally. I mean, that's where it starts. Where it just, I'm not going to tell anybody. I don't want to make anybody's day else feel bad. That's good. That's good. You don't want to spread negativity. That's great. But there's a problem if you keep internally saying to yourself that that's all you're worried about is just I don't like the way this is going, or I don't like the way that I don't like the duties I was assigned this month. Why did they throw 5 on me this month? They haven't done that in a year or something, I really didn't like the class that I was assigned, or how many people are speaking or not speaking. There's so many things you complain about internally. You don't have to voice it. Just as much of a problem. So it's an easy one to creep into all of us. And if you are like me, like I said, I see it creep in sometimes to me. We're just surrounded by a lot of negativity, whether it's, like I said, whether it's at work or friends or just people around that you see just going to Walmart. I mean, it's just you want to go see a lot of negativity. Just roll into Walmart. Just go down the aisle and just watch what I call the bumpers. You go down there and people literally are bumping people out of the way. And they act like they're doing it. I'm sorry, but I watch them like purposefully bump them to go get a product and then say sorry to make it look better. So if y'all, by the way, if y'all want the trick in Walmart, by the way, if you go there, leave your buggy outside the row, okay, and weave in. That's what I've done that for years now. Just leave your buggy outside the row and just go in. You never have to worry about getting blocked, bumping anybody. No, never. So it's paying off real good.
I'm just upset that you're watching.
So grumbling, we got to be real careful with grumbling. That the Israelites had a lot of problems. This may have been the worst one. I would say this is what really led to their major downfall here. All the complaining they did, all the way through it wasn't just lasting all through Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, all the way through there. We're talking through the minor prophets. We just had a class back there with the kids, the minor prophets, and that's all they were doing, just over and over again, just complaining. So very, very good. We need to really watch out internally for that, and others around us. I mean, it's something we need to discuss with somebody if it's causing, we can see it causing a problem in this church or with us for sure. All right, let's move on to lying. Somebody give me a good definition of lying. Very good. Where'd you get that one? I like that. That's a good one. Conscious, intentional falsehood. Very good. Very good.
Might say create a false and misleading impression, anything devoid of truth or distorted.
Very good. I like the words intentional, okay? Because I don't think we can use the word lying if we accidentally, I say accidentally, defraud somebody when we really didn't know that we were truly doing that. We need to watch out for those things. But the lying is you have a purposeful intent to mislead somebody in a different direction. So very good. Any other definitions y'all had? I really like those two. Mine was more, said second on definition. I really like Michael's though.
I like that. I have been creating false or misleading impressions because it kind of proves that you don't have to speak to lie. You can put on a face or act like somebody you're not. So it's not, a lot of times it is speaking, but it doesn't have to involve speech at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely by action you can divert people's eyes and purposefully. Very very good. Let's go over to Proverbs 6. Read some verses and we'll talk about them. Proverbs 6. Let's read verse 16 through 19. When somebody gets there, please.
There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. A heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil. A false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers.
Okay. So lying is included in one of the 7 things God hates. I've seen some commentary on this that 7 is just kind of one of those perfect numbers God uses. I don't think it stops because I think there's obviously some sins not mentioned here that they're really bad. Obviously God hates sin. I don't think that for sure this is an exhaustive list. But we notice there's multiple other verses where God mentioned the word hate associated with lying. We'll get into why that is in a second. I think one of the reasons it's mentioned over and over again like this, though, it's kind of like grumbling in the sense it's very easy to commit. Very, very easy to commit. And very easy to creep in when you don't even think you're purposefully always trying to do that or consider it what we call like a little white lie to, we were consciously said something that is we say we're doing a lie to make somebody feel better, or to not have to maybe make ourselves feel a little better. It's not really we're trying to really hurt this person or anything like that, or try and do anything like a really big lie. It's just a little small lie to either A, make them feel better, or allow us to avoid a situation. If you guys have never done that, amen to you guys. But I have certainly done that before, where it's you consciously say that to yourself that all parties are good here. This is going to really avoid a bad situation on my part and their part. If we say just this one little thing that's just a little bit not 100% the truth, ends up leading to more problems than they were. Turn over real quickly to Proverbs chapter 12, just a few verses over to Proverbs 12, verse 22. Very good.
Maybe it's not as, does it seem to be, it's like some real white lie. It's not as big as being prideful, putting everything on, certainly didn't kill anybody. But it's mentioned twice. So that should be our attention to it.
Yeah, we're going to get to this in a second, what the writer says. I'm not going to speak on much of this, but if you think you feel good about white lies, remember that Satan is the white lie champion. He never says a big one. You know, it's always one that kind of just barely is just enough to deceive. We'll get to more about the devil here in just a second, but somebody can read Proverbs 12:22. 12:22.
Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully with others love.
Okay, so that was just another one I wrote down. Reiterates how God feels about lying lips. But those who deal faithfully are His delight. So those who have an opposite attitude of that. In this, we were just talking about politicians a second ago. There's a couple ways. There's a couple ways that we lie today. One of them, and a lot of them, like I said, we think are justifying lies. One of them is to cover up mistakes. If you remember, David did this. He lied to cover up his mistakes, all the things he did with Bathsheba and everything. He lied about all that. Politicians have really made an art form of this, and if they've made a mistake, first thing they do is come up front and say they didn't, or say something that gets them out of it that's not true. They're very good deceivers. So we're not much different when instead of confronting the problem head on, like Michael said before, he's talking about grumbling, but same principle applies here. Instead of coming face forward when we make a mistake, sometimes, as we said, the tongue, one sin leads to another. We'll double back. We'll figure what we can, one little thing we can say, and then it'll just go away. Rather than face the consequence of the action, we will fabricate an alternative course. Let's go over to Ephesians chapter 4. And read verses 22 through 25.
Put off concerning your former conduct the old man which grows corrupt according to deceitful lust, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that you put on the new man, which is created according to God in true righteousness and holiness. Therefore, putting away lying, let each one of you speak truth with his neighbor, for we are all members one of another.
Okay, and then go along with that before we discuss. Colossians 3, 9, and 10. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices, having put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its Creator. So, God considers lying as part of which life we had? The old life. Okay? So isn't that a pretty bold statement that He wants no part of that from you since you become a Christian until death? That should never be a part of you. And one of the main reasons is because that is the ultimate trait in John 8:44 of Satan. If we go to John 8:44, it says, you are of your father the devil, and you want the desires of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning, does not say in truth because there is no truth in him. Whenever he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Okay? Notice that God always equates lying with what? And what other characteristic of Satan? He calls him what from the beginning? He's a murderer from the beginning. I know in this world we think that is the worst thing you can do. God, that is how much God hates when we have falsehood come out of our mouth. I mean, he is calling us someone that is ungodly, that is of Satan, that is a Satan-like characteristic. that is a characteristic that is detestable to Him. When we think there's any kind of rationale for speaking falsehood, forget against a brethren or to a brethren, just saying these little things, even deceiving ourselves, saying these little falsehoods just remember how we represent ourselves. We are supposed to be Christ-like. We are supposed to be what God expects us to be, and to be. We can't meet all the other qualifications. We can't be the Christians that God expects us to be and wear everything else on us and have a deceitful, lying heart as part of us. Once again, I'm not talking about, and we don't need to talk about the thing where somebody is just, he's got a major lying problem. You can see it all the time. We're talking about things that creep in as Christians, where it's easier to say this one little thing than deal with something head on. Anything else on lying? Anyone else got things on lying about how the things we can do to deal with it? Things you guys have dealt with before? Examples of lying?
Proverbs 12, up in verse 19, it says that truthful words last forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. And so when you're tempted to lie, it's hard to remember, but it's only a temporary solution every single time. You will either, truth is eventually going to be exposed one way or another. And so you will either be exposed soon, or you'll tangle yourself in a web of deceit and be exposed later and be even worse. But that's something we try to tell our kids when they have lied to us is, you may think it's going to get you out of trouble, but it's only going to get worse for you if you're dishonest. And it's just a temporary solution.
I mean, being the smartest person in the world can maybe get you 30 lies deep, where you just say you're so smart you can get from one lie to the next, where nobody figures out what's really going on. Okay, maybe that makes you smart, but I don't care how smart you are. Eventually, Sarah said, the truth's going to come out. And how much damage have you done along the path to yourself, to people, most of all with God? How much trust you damage, and we haven't talked about that one yet, but lying with each other, fellow Christians, being deceitful. Remember we talked about a couple lessons ago about forgiveness. Yep, the forgiveness can happen, but sometimes building back that trust is just really hard. If they've seen that, they thought you back to one and find out that you've been deceitful so many times over and over again, how much mistrust and how much issues that can cause with relationships around here. And it's so easy to creep in. Those little small deceitful things to get us out of doing things that we don't think we really want to do, or how we want to act as Christians. Very good. I appreciate participation. We're going to pick up a slander next time, and we're going to it'll move quicker because I'm going to about 3 of these I'm going to lump together. We'll go through those a little quicker, and then we'll get to the questions. Appreciate your participation.